Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to another Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents. And boy, am I relieved about that big result last night ahead of this one. We are looking forward to a double game week for both of our two correspondents in game week 34. Let me introduce you to title challenging Manchester City correspondent and treble chasing, Jonny Pringle. How are you, Jonny?
I'm very good today. Thank you, James. Thanks for having me on again.
Good, mate. I am so glad you won last night and we're not doing this when you've lost, mate. And our West Ham United correspondent, Chris Stone, is in. How are you, Chris?
Yep, I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
Good stuff, mate. Jonny, what's the emotion this morning following the big 4-1 win against Arsenal last night?
Yeah, just absolutely buzzing again. Another big night at the Etihad. We've had a few of them over the last 18 months. We really have just turned it into a proper fortress where it's just a really good going, knowing that the atmosphere is going to be up, another big team, another big game, and yeah, another big result. So, yeah, everything's looking rosy for us.
Title, any doubts now? Everyone else thinks it's done, mate, which feels a bit weird, I must say.
We've still got to finish the job. I've been tracking the odds. We were 4-1 before last night. We've gone to 16-1 now, so I think the bookies think it's done. But no, yeah, we've got to finish the job. We've got Fulham at the weekend. Obviously West Ham after that. We've still got some fixtures. Hopefully, if all goes well, we'll have it tied up before Brighton and Brentford. But yeah, obviously I think I would say we'll win it now, but it's certainly not over yet.
Did you go into the game last night thinking you'd win?
Yeah, I did. I was quite relaxed last night. Like I said, I think we've got something about us at the Etihad recently. Like I said, this season, second half of last season, we really have showed up in the big games at home. And I thought if we did last night, I thought we would win.
That comments come from the Bayern game quite a bit as well.
All the games, like I said, we beat sort of Liverpool and Chelsea in the cup this year. We've beat Liverpool at home. We beat United at home, obviously convincingly. Like you say, beat Bayern again recently. Even going back to like the end of last season, albeit we got knocked out, but we did Real Madrid at the Etihad. So yeah, again, like I said, we beat Arsenal last night. We do show up in the big games at the Etihad these days.
What concerns you about what's left? 2 points behind, 2 games in hand. Essentially, you can afford to lose one as long as you win the rest and it's still done. What concerns you about the running, or does nothing concern you about it?
Maybe just injuries, fatigue. Obviously, get chuck for 2 legs against Real Madrid in there. I think if we do slip up and it does get to the final week of the season, Brighton and Brentford are 2 tough fixtures. But like I said, hopefully it won't get to that point now. I think the fixtures are good enough before then to hopefully have it wrapped up.
Yeah, your feelings like mine, like get it wrapped up before you go to the Amex, just to be sure, because both of them for very different reasons can be sticking points, those 2 fixtures. I think Brighton, we know what they're capable of, and Brentford obviously beat you earlier in the season. And I think I want to say all 3 games you've had against Brentford since they come up have been a bit ugly, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I agree.
Chris, you won't have seen the game last night because I know you were at West Ham, but thoughts on the title race as a neutral? Or are you not a neutral because you hate Arsenal like everyone else? Or
I think I just know a few. Most of the Arsenal fans I know are the ones that get on your nerves a bit. That kind of like. So I think there's not a natural rivalry, but yeah, I suppose I was kind of rooting for City a bit more. I think it's all but done and dusted, really, isn't it? I mean, it's all but mathematically there, like Jonny said. We just got to finish the job, but Arsenal seem to have just sort of kind of wilted. And then obviously went into that game under a bit more pressure. It's one of those sort of games. It's a big game, anything can happen. But I think City just did what they needed to do, and the big players turned up, didn't they?
it's wild when you think about it that Arsenal were still very capable of winning the 5 games that got left. I think people were particularly highlighting the trip to Newcastle was particularly tough. But it is wild that we look at City with 7 games left and know that they might have to win 5, draw 2 to win the league, and yet everyone assumes that you'll do it, Jonny.
Yeah, I know. This is why I don't think it's over. But yeah, people just have seen the run that we've gone on, have seen run-ins in the past on the Pep, and obviously just hold us to such a high standard where they just assume we're going to win every game.
What's changed recently? I think back to the 2 games that my team played with you. Pep had a big rant after you beat us 4-2 at the Etihad, said about keeping the squad fresh. I don't know if that was kind of with Cancelo in mind because he hadn't gone to Bayern or was going to Bayern at that point. And then you lost 1-0 at White Lane. You was as flat as I've ever seen a Manchester City team. And it from there just didn't look like you were going to do the business. From there, you've won every game but one. What's changed since those two Tottenham games?
Yeah, I came on the pod obviously after that Tottenham game, didn't I? And I was ranting about Pep trying this system, playing the likes of Lewis, Ake, Akanji, when I was calling for him to bring Stones, Diaz, Laporte, players like that back in. And he did that against Villa and we won. Albeit Laporte's obviously gone back out. But I think the biggest difference is Stones and Diaz coming back in and just consistently playing. I was critical of this sort of like three at the back formation with an inverted fullback. But I think now the personnel is there. You can sort of see what Pep was trying to get at all season. All it took was just Diaz coming back in the middle, being an absolute rock, arguably better than he was in that 2021 season. And Stones has just obviously been a revelation, took it in from right back. And that has just lifted the level of Ake and Akanji. And basically that's the platform that you've gone off. We've gone back to being rock solid in defence. And we're just obviously so clinical up front now with Haaland. I think that's what's changed.
What's interesting, though, is since that defeat at Tottenham, we've only actually kept 2 league clean sheets.
Yeah.
So is it that much stronger?
I think a lot of them, I've learned this as an Edison owner in fantasy football, a lot of them
late goals.
Just late goals, yeah. And they just seem to know when to defend at the right times. And like I said, if we do leak goals at the end, it has been a source of frustration, the sort of lack of clean sheets. But Pep's always described it as City need to be better in both boxes. And we've got defenders on the pitch now. Ake, Diaz, Stones, even Akanji, they're so good in the duels, blocks, clearances. It's not like having Cancelo or even Laporte in there that would occasionally drop a bollock. We've got proper defenders there now that can see periods of pressure out.
Yeah, it's mad when you go through these games just to run them through. So the Villa game you mentioned, Ollie Watkins scored late. Then you won at Arsenal, conceded the penalty, fair enough. Chris Wood late for Forest. Bournemouth scored when you were 4 up. Then there were clean sheets against Newcastle Palace. Salah is the anomaly. You conceded at 3-0 up against Southampton, 3-0 up against Leicester, and 3-0 up against Arsenal.
Yeah.
Is it just is it a mentality thing? It's like, it's one.
I think so. It must be because, that and we changed the personnel in the run-in. As soon as City get 3 up, Pep just gets them all off onto the next game. So it's the personnel on the pitch. And yeah, maybe just a drop-in mentality.
We'll come back onto City defenders, but I don't want to leave Chris out of the conversation. Are you safe, Chris?
Not mathematically. The momentum's in the right direction, but I think we need at least one more win. Probably 4 points, I would say, would be enough. But I'd like to finish, fairly strong. There's 3 or 4 winnable games. Not that we win them all, but there's winnable games, and I'd like to pick up sort of, maybe 9 points if we could.
It's conceivable you could lose these next 4, though.
Yeah, it is conceivable because fundamentally nothing's really changed. It has in the performances, but there's nothing tactically or massively different that's happened. It just seems to happen since we came back against Arsenal.
Just lifted the vibe of the whole club, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean it wasn't that the crowd were quiet at 2-0. I mean, I remember watching the game after 10 minutes. I was thinking we're going to get absolutely rinsed there. We're going to get stuck 4-5-0. The way we started was no different to half the other games where we started badly. But then we got the penalty, and then that gave the crowd something, which I know we were talking about, obviously, West Ham, but it's kind of ironic because similar sort of things happened in the other Arsenal game, against Liverpool. Arsenal were kind of in control, and then something happened, and the crowd sort of got behind the home team. And then since then, when we played in the second European game, we went behind, but it's just the players look different. There's 3 or 4, 4 or 5 players maybe who are playing well, but they're not playing with so much hesitation. When they're going towards goal, they look like they actually want to take it on and they want to take a chance on rather than looking around them and not being sure and hesitating. That things seem to be happening a bit like how they were last season, but it's frustrating because you think, well, how has that not been the case the rest of the season? It's not like it's all new players and they've suddenly started gelling, because there's only really probably a couple of new players that are playing regularly anyway, in Paqueta and Agard.
Confidence was on the floor after the 5-1 defeat to Newcastle. A defeat which this week doesn't look as bad as it did then. Hello, Tottenham. Dr. Tottenham will see you now. And you were probably at a period, I think, then where we spoke to you afterwards, David Moyes to go potentially on your mind. And yet here we are, fast forward 3 or 4 weeks. It's not on anybody's lips now, is it?
No, I mean, I don't think you can say Moyes has done something and he's turned it around or anything else like that. It seems to have happened as a result of the game and the crowd, and something shifted in the players. I don't think he's, okay, he might have been involved with trying to keep the players up and trying to keep them going, keep them motivated. But I don't think he's fundamentally done anything hugely different. But I mean, now things have changed. We've got a few results. I think see how the season ends. Get to the end of the season. There's at no point now would you obviously get rid of him at all before the end of the season under any circumstances. If we finish strongly, then I think it's not an argument. It would be daft if they got rid of him. If we say finished 14th and got to the final of the conference.
So you'd now be in a position you'd be happy for him to be, assuming you stay up,
I
to
think
be manager next season.
I think you'd have to give him that start of the season, unless you've got a compelling direction of where you were going and someone that you wanted who was going to take you in that direction. And I don't think the board or the club have. So I would say yes, on balance, I would give him that start of the season and see what happens from there. I think a lot depends on how we, do we push this through? If we keep going how we are, keep playing how we are, then I would go with that. But if it suddenly shifts back and we end up, staying up by 2 or 3 points and going out in the semi-final, then I think that argument
shifts the narrative. Yeah, you're on 34 points with 6 games to play. You are 5 clear of Leicester. I think Nottingham Forest fixture over Brighton has surprised many last night, where it just feels like they're back in the running when a lot were obviously writing them off. Jonny, as a neutral, any concerns for West Ham?
No, not really. I think
other than the game next Wednesday.
No, I think what you said. I think obviously they've managed to get them results at Southampton against Southampton and Fulham, and then that point against Arsenal sort of lifted them to that win at Bournemouth. They have just managed to pull themselves clear. And was just looking at the fixtures, and I can see why you think that obviously they could lose or but I think there's enough in there for West Ham to get clear. I think it is a classic case of too good to go down.
No, I don't think West Ham will lose the next 4, but just taking each one individually, like, can they get beat at Palace? Yeah. Will they get beat at your place? Well, most people will at the moment. Then it's United at home, and then Brentford away is obviously an awkward fixture as well. Suddenly, if you're 0 from 4, you're then on 34 from 36 played with Leeds and Leicester in the last 2. And it could suddenly be 6-pointers at the end. I don't think it'll get to that, Chris, because I imagine you'll pick up a win there somewhere, and that's probably all you'll need, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it will be the case. The only thing that concerns me a little bit is last night we were a little bit jaded in compared to how we played in a couple of the other games. Not significantly, but enough. And at the end of the day, you're playing Liverpool, so that's the only concern. And we got an early kickoff on Saturday, so that's a little bit. The fixture timings haven't been overly kind, and I think I've sort of put out a tweet. I realised we played a lot, but we played 5 games in 13 days, which is, and it's not like we're using the squads.
No, I mean, the team you picked last Thursday in Europe was strong, wasn't it? So you've gone Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday night, and then, as you said, it's going to be Saturday lunchtime. Then you get an extra day on City going into next midweek. But yeah, that makes Saturday at Palace even more challenging to have it as a 12:30 kickoff, I think.
I mean, that said, yeah, it does make it a big challenge. I think Palace are a little bit, they're in that sort of, they are safe. They've got 37.
Palace on 37, yeah, and brilliant fixtures left.
So they're not going to be overly fussed. I think it's more about how we take the game to them. If we take the game to them, play how we have in the last few, then we've got a chance of a result. I mean, we have rested some. I think what Moyes has done is he's been able to, because we've won a couple of games more easily. He's been able to take off players maybe sort of 20 minutes or half hour earlier than what he would have done. So that has benefited a little bit in the terms of the number of fixtures. But he's been pretty much playing, give or take one or two players, the same sort of team for the last sort of 4 or 5 games.
Okay. Jonny, there's a lot of narrative this morning about Arsenal bottling it, 3 points from the last 4. Do you see it that way? That it's as much on they've thrown it as you've regained it, if you will?
We have obviously been brilliant to go on this run and get ourselves back into it. We've done everything you could have asked of us. I mean, everyone's sort of like beating around the bush, aren't they? Trying to say that Arsenal haven't bottled it. But you wouldn't say that about the Liverpool game, but they have in the West Ham and Southampton games. You're 2-0 up at West Ham. You need to be seeing that out. And you just have to beat Southampton at home. No excuses. Put the pressure on City. And they've slipped up a little bit. So, yeah, I think they have.
Was you surprised how easy it was last night?
No, but that's, like I say, more to do with because of the level that we're at the moment. I don't think anyone, maybe Real Madrid, I don't think anyone is capable of matching us at the Etihad with our level at the moment.
So is that as good as you've seen? I'm not saying in terms of one specific game, but in terms of the level you're at, is this right at peak? You've hit it for the run-in, you're in peak condition right now?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think we're as good, sort of like dominant in the midfield as we have been in previous seasons. But like I said before about both boxes, it's as well as we're defending and it's as clinical as we've been all season. So, yeah, I think we have hit our peak at this time of the year.
Do you think Arsenal win all their 5 games left?
No, probably not. I do think everyone keeps labelling Newcastle away, like you say. That is a really difficult place to go. I think you'd have to go there with a lot of momentum, with your eye on the ball. I think I can see Arsenal slipping up there as well.
And interesting, by the time Arsenal get there, you'll have played 3 times these Fulham, West Ham and Leeds games. And Arsenal have obviously got Chelsea at home next Tuesday. You'd referenced Real Madrid, Jonny. You know what I'm going to ask you, mate. Treble across the other side of Manchester. They're beginning to shit themselves that you're about to match 1999. Do you think you will do it? We know that you can. Do you think that you'll do it?
I can't say I think we will because it's just such a difficult thing. Obviously, it's looking all fine and dandy at the moment. But you just don't know what will happen in the Real Madrid games. And then let's say we did get past Real Madrid and we had won the league the week before. I think United would rather shoot Haaland on the pitch than let us win the treble. That way. They would do everything possible to stop us winning it. So I don't know. I can't say either way. Like I say, it's obviously very exciting. This is the closest we've got, and it would be amazing if we did win it. But I can't say I think we will win it.
Would it almost? I'm just trying to visualize that. If you've won the title and you're in the Champions League final, which is the week after the FA Cup final, and it will be against one of the Milan clubs, and you would be huge favourites.
Yeah.
No matter which one of the two that you would play in the final. If United's in the middle as the FA Cup final, they'll probably be thinking at that point, it's the only chance to stop you of the treble. Is it almost a bigger game for United than it would be for you?
I don't know, because like obviously the treble is obviously United's baby, as I've obviously learned with years of growing up with United fans. That is the one thing they have to cling on to. And rightfully so. It is obviously an amazing achievement, the only English team to have ever done it. They will want to protect that. So it is a huge game for them, but obviously it also is a game for us to write ourselves into history. So you'd have to say it's a bigger game for us as the team on the cusp of the treble. But yeah, it'd be an enormous game for United as well.
Is it complete in football, essentially, if you do it for you as a fan?
Yeah, arguably. I have thought about this. The Champions League is obviously the last bit. If I see City win the Champions League, I've seen us win everything. So I think so, yeah.
And Nathan Jones will go down in history as denying Manchester City a quadruple, unbelievably.
If he needed his ego massaging anymore.
You mentioned Haaland in that piece as well. I thought he was outstanding last night. I know he missed a lot of chances, but I thought it was the best I'd seen him in terms of his link play. We've said in the past that actually on occasions he can look a bit clumsy and awkward when he comes deep. He didn't last night. It was brilliant, wasn't he?
Yeah. All 3 games against Arsenal. Arsenal press so well. Pep's gone direct to him. And there's basically just told him to just go up against the centre-backs. And yeah, he gave Holding and Gabriel a torrid time again. And yeah, I think a lot of City fans have said that was Haaland's best game, best all-round game for City last night. Because like you say, his finishing was off. I saw he had 6 shots in the box. And a lot of them were just saved by Ramsdale. You'd expect him to do better. So he could have had 3 or 4 last night.
Yeah, but it was the link play. Did it help him? Do you think that De Bruyne was closer to him? We've spoke about the inverted fullbacks, but you didn't do that last night. It was almost like a 4-2-4 setup, basically. De Bruyne was obviously really close to him. Did that help him in terms of spatial and his ability to drop off from there?
Yeah, definitely, because like I said, when he did come deep or pick a ball out of the sky, he knew he just had to give a simple pass to De Bruyne. And like you say, it was basically a 4-4-2 last night, wasn't it? De Bruyne sort of like rolling back the years to Wolfsburg, where he was a second striker. They looked like they were going to score every time they picked it up last night, De Bruyne and Haaland.
Yeah, they were great. Do you think that'll stick, or is it just a case that Fulham goes back to Stones going inverted or something?
I think it does go back to the old system. And I think this sort of hints at the next question about whether De Bruyne is an FPL prospect. I think because in the big games, I think that is the sort of like go-to system now, is 4-4 or 3-2 everyone else, and then just Haaland and De Bruyne up front.
That's it, isn't it? Let's talk about it then. Big game, Kev, as you tweeted last night, and we've been saying for years now, to be honest. But you don't have a big game left in the league, do you?
No,
I know they're all big, but I mean in terms of a sizable opponent.
Yeah, exactly that. Who will come and press us that high? Maybe Chelsea, if they're at the moment.
I don't know if they're capable, mate.
No. So yeah, I don't think they will. So yeah, I think you might see De Bruyne sort of like revert back to that sort of like inverted right midfield role. I saw people comparing him with Salah for the run-in. It is tempting. I can see why you maybe want to go there on a free hit. I've already got Salah in this week, and I wouldn't be tempted to change him to De Bruyne.
Okay. Chris, you've been a little bit more open, I think it's fair to say. Certainly a little bit more aggressive since that second half against Arsenal. Do you think you'll go to City and press?
So they'll press a little bit. I don't think it's hard with City, because if you've all got to do, haven't you? And yeah, I think they'll be set up and they'll be compact, I think they'll try and press them from the front, but it's very difficult against City to really do that. It's so hard to implement any tactics because they can just hurt you in so many different ways.
What year did Pep take over, Jonny? 16?
Yeah, 2016.
I'm just looking at the results between the two teams. I know actually you've given West Ham a few hidings at the London Stadium, but I was just looking at the results at the Etihad since Guardiola took over. These are all City victories. 3-1, 2-1, 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 2-1. You never smashed them, do you?
No, yeah, they've all been tight games, and I remember a few of them being quite late in the season as well, where it was a midweek game, quite nervy. Yeah, it's never, like you say, we never sort of spanked them at home.
You definitely captain Haaland this week.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, again, it enters your head, doesn't it, for like 30 seconds, about no less than that, about whether to captain him against Arsenal, and then you realise it's Haaland, and you just pop the armband on him again.
If you had the triple captaincy left, now or the 37 double, which is Chelsea at home and Brighton away?
Probably now. I think the next question will be, do you think he's going to be rotated? Yeah. I think the answer is no. I think he will.
Really?
I think he'll just continue to play every league game. I can't remember the last league game he was rotated for.
So just thinking about the schedule, it's Fulham Sunday, West Ham Wednesday, Leeds Saturday,
Yeah.
Real Madrid Tuesday.
Yeah.
All 3 days. You think he starts all 4?
If there was one, it's going to be Leeds, isn't it?
That would be my instinct.
So I think he'll play both the games in the double. So if I did still have the triple captain, yes, I would put it on him this week.
Yeah, that's fair. Will he be your captain, Chris?
Yeah, definitely. Something like that, I'd always captain him against my team. So I don't know.
It's interesting. Johnny's mentioned, obviously, he's got Mo Salah. I mean, Tottenham at home and Fulham at home.
I've got Salah as well, but I mean, seeing Salah last night, he didn't really do that much. He didn't look effective. Well, I think that's the difference with Haaland. I know they're completely different players in the way they play, but Haaland's always going to get a chance. It's unusual. I mean, Jonny know more than me, but even from a fantasy perspective, I couldn't think if there's a game where he's not had a shot on target unless he's not played much of it, and that's the difference.
Are you using a chip this week, Chris?
No. I think I've used them all now. I think.
Jonny?
Yeah, I'm out of chips as well.
If you were free hitting this week, Jonny, which free City? And let's be honest, it would be free City.
So
Haaland and the other 2, let's say.
I've already got my free City settled. Ederson, Grealish, and Haaland, which I'm pretty happy with. If I had to pick for this week, I don't know, because I'm thinking about the rest of the free hit team.
I think you could squeeze
say...
De Bruyne into a free hit, I think. With Salah and Haaland, you can do it. And even like Trent and Robertson as well, if you want to go that. It can be done.
Yeah. Let's say you'd probably go Haaland. You'd maybe decide on Grealish or De Bruyne. I think you probably would still go De Bruyne. But then it's a question of, you'd probably have a defender. So you'd ask the question, would you have Ederson or Stones? But on a free hit, I think there's other good defenders there with the upside. So you'd probably just lob Ederson in.
So how are you feeling about that? Because I hate it. I hate the idea, because I know he's going to concede that shit goal near the end. And again, last night. But you're saying you've been quite happy even just having these 2s lately. You're happy that it's set because you know he's going to play every game, right?
Well, I'm not happy about it. Obviously, I think we should have kept a clean sheet against Leicester and Arsenal. They've been incredibly frustrating, but the fixtures on paper, the stats for City are really good. The clean sheet should come, but they're just not. Like I say, Stones has obviously got a couple of goals now. So, like I say, I would say Stones, but then, like I said, you've got Trent, Shaw, Estupiñán. I'm not sure you'd put him ahead of them 3 in the defence when you've got the option of Ederson in net. Maybe. I don't know.
So if you're on wildcard now, a few will be. Suja's going to be on wildcard this week. Do you think you'd go the same 3? So is it Ederson, Grealish, Haaland you got, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I feel lucky to have got on Grealish at the right time. I needed money to get Haaland back in for Tony. So I needed to downgrade. I can't remember who it was. But I had a choice, and I just took a punt on Grealish after the Liverpool game, fancying him a little bit. And then he got the goal and assist against Southampton. He's obviously playing miles better than he ever has done for City. And he does look more threatening. But I think you've alluded to it, is that Haaland does swallow up so many chances that it's not like he's going to be getting goals and assists galore. He's probably just going to be one that ticks over for the rest of the season.
That's okay at his value, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's fine. I'm happy with that.
Chris, what have you got from City?
I've got Grealish. I've just got 2, Grealish and Haaland. I've only had Grealish for about 4 weeks. I think I've got 7 points as his first one.
Any intention of adding the 3rd?
I don't think so. I don't know. It's hard, isn't it? The City, the defence, because like you say, they concede a lot of goals. But then at the same time, I'd probably say Ederson would probably be your favourite pick, because you know he's not going to get rotated, and with all those sort of teams you're playing, it's law of averages. They've got to keep some clean sheets out of those. So I'd probably say if I was going to go Ederson, but I've gone very cheap. Personally, I've got Steele and Everson. So obviously, if Everson had not played, if Steele hadn't played last night, then I would have had to maybe taken a -4 or something to get in someone else, and would have gone slightly more expensive.
Jonny, hypothetical for you then. If you were buying this week, John Stones for free, or Trent for -4?
Probably Trent for a -4. Just think the upside. He's playing so well at the moment. And I think there's clean sheets in there for Liverpool as well.
Chris, how did Trent play last night? You were obviously at the game.
Um,
Because Suj just told me this morning, bullshit, he wasn't great. It's what Suj just told me.
I mean, he wasn't like sort of setting the world on fire, but he was involved in. He was everywhere around him, sort of almost sort of sometimes being almost like a centre back, collecting the ball very deep. Passing wise, I thought he could have scored last night, and I think it's almost like he's a little bit arrogant sometimes in his ability. I wouldn't say he was awful. It's far from it. He was the one, if you like, hogging the ball. So aside from FPL, if you're looking at from a Sky perspective, then he looks very promising from that.
Yeah, but then he just from Sky, he didn't pass the numbers against Forest. They shut it off.
Yeah.
It's worth saying. I'm sure Tottenham won't, and I don't think Fulham will either. To be honest,
I think it depends on the other team. If he's given the space, then it just keep collecting the ball and passing it. Passing it through the lines, passing it short. Just he likes to have the ball. You can tell that. And he got the assist last night, didn't he? For Gakpo goal. So yeah, it's Trent, isn't it? I haven't got him, unfortunately, but I don't think there's a way for me to get him.
Yeah, I'm pleased, Jonny, that you said yes, you'd still take the -4 for Trent, because that's essentially what I'm planning. Actually, still is probably going to be a part of that, which means I go into this double with probably only 2 Manchester City. The problem is I don't like that, John. I don't like that.
But it's not ideal, is it? But it's not obvious who the picks are outside of.
No, and I know that it's not that Trent can't be rotated. He can, but it's unlikely. But I know I could go Stones, and he might think West Ham won't come at us much. I can get away with leaving him out for this one. I think Stones would be the one that I'd go to at the moment, but I don't think I'm gonna go that way, to be honest. When you went for Grealish, Jonny, am I right in saying it was fairly close between Grealish and Gundogan?
Yeah, Grealish, Gundogan, and Mahrez. But it was with game week 34 in mind. I thought if I put him in, I'm probably keeping him to 34. Who's likely to stay the distance? And it has been Grealish.
Yeah. I was tipping up Gundogan, and then Grealish went off in the Liverpool-Southampton games. I couldn't really make the case anymore. And where Gundogan obviously played last night, you wouldn't make the case for him. But he'll go higher again in these coming games, won't he?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that was the decision in my head, was Gundogan and Mahrez are more explosive than Grealish, but Grealish is the better long-term pick. But yeah, it's just turned out that Gundogan and Mahrez haven't really done anything in that time, so got lucky maybe, really.
I think the other thing as well, we're going to, although it's a bit ugly, Salah to De Bruyne in 37, when you then double again at the end, if it's still up for grabs and Salah doesn't, might be quite a popular move for those who haven't gone the free Manchester City, but still rather have free. Chris, are you annoyed that no one's talking about West Ham assets for their free hits and wild cards this week for those using them?
I think I'd be rather concerned if they were talking about West Ham assets. I think they've lost the plot. But
There's one auto pick, though, isn't there, particularly for free hitters? Soufal at 4.0.
Yeah, I was trying to think, for the price. I thought he was up 4.3 or something, but yeah, he's a shoe-in. If you were, but then you've got Brighton players, haven't you, as well, that aren't expensive. I don't think budget.
Yeah, but you might be using sort of March Mitoma still or something like that.
Yeah,
and
true.
You're just filling the places.
I mean, if you're looking at budget, he's going to play, and he's playing all right. He's doing better than he was probably a month, sort of 5-6 weeks ago. It looks to be back to how he was early on when he was playing for us. He gets forward.
Are you letting the cat or the dog in, Chris? Cat.
Yeah.
Chris just leant back. I could hear him. Meow. Right, I've got a question for you then. I mean, look, we're not saying start Soufal in any case. I think, yes, you're right. There are better defense options, but there's a little cover on the bench if you're particularly on free hit, and letting for cover this week, I think it's perfectly reasonable. If I said to you, Chris, pick Antonio or Alvarez on a free hit, Would you back Antonio?
Over Alvarez at City.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. But purely because of the fact he's going to play. You know he's going to play because he's not. I don't think he's going to start. If I'm honest.
Jonny, any thoughts for Alvarez for a differential for that third City spot?
Yeah, I've heard people talking about this. I've had a couple of DMs as well. I think it's okay. Like, you're just gambling on the minutes, aren't you? I think Luke sort of talked about in the past about when City had come up against back threes, but Pep seems to include him over De Bruyne and push him forward. So, yeah, maybe. But like I say, you're gambling. Like, I wouldn't say he'd start both. He'd maybe starts one and gets minutes in the other. But yeah, if you fancy it, it's a punt. But I don't know.
Thing is Alvarez, let's say 100 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's say there's a chance that he starts one. Is that better realistically than a Jota or a Martial? I realise I might really regret those Martial words when he's about to play my team tonight. Or a Nunez, for example. Alvarez is worth being in that conversation because all of the others there, maybe not Martial if he proves fitness tonight, but a Liverpool too, Jota and Nunez, there's every chance they're getting rotated for one as well, right?
Yeah, you're right. But then it's just, Jota does feel like a guaranteed one. I couldn't guarantee you a start for Alvarez. If you could guarantee me a start for Alvarez and, like you said, more minutes, you would probably go there. So it's whether you want to take the gamble that it'll start one and get minutes in the other.
Interesting. I think, Chris, I don't think anyone to go for Antonio, but you mentioned earlier not much has changed tactically. I think one thing that has changed is he's rediscovered a bit of form. And it gives you an outlet and physicality that you can play into him. I feel like a couple of months ago, it just felt like the thing was bouncing off him. Yeah, it feels like the last few games I've seen, he's been a lot more involved. Even like the link for Paquetá's goal last night was quite nice. Is he comfortably first choice at the moment?
I'd say so. I mean, he's involved in the play. It's not like he was just a bit of a target man. I wouldn't say he's lost pace, but he's lost a bit. He's not as sharp, maybe. So when it's not, a couple of times he's been put through and he's clear, and whereas before, probably a season or season and a half ago, that would have been it. He would have carried on. The defender wouldn't have got close enough to him. Where now he's being caught. So whether or not it's not really his control even. It's just that he's just not quite got the zip to get away from a defender. Obviously, he's got the strength and overall his play is good. Like I say, he linked up well with Paquetá last night for that goal, and that's not unusual. He's doing that quite a bit. So yeah, it would be a surprise. Ings hasn't really had a lot of minutes, and he's not done anything apart from that one game where he scored a couple of goals. So whether it's opportunity, whatever it is, system, whatever you want to call it, he's not. There's no reason for him to be put in ahead of Antonio at the moment.
Are you up for a bit of trivia, Chris?
Go on then. I'll probably
who's got more FPL points, Ederson or Fabianski?
I would think Ederson, but I'm going to go Fabianski because he's probably had a few random penalty saves that have probably tips him up there.
Yeah, probably. He doesn't concede many goals when they're 3-0 up either. Not that you're 3-0 up that often, but yeah. Flappy has 4 more. Jonny, out of trivia for you. Who's the highest scoring defender between City and West Ham players?
This season?
Yeah.
I literally no idea.
It is. You were going to say it, and it's the right answer.
Zuma?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Kurt Zuma has 4 more than John Stones. Chris, we're looking in the wrong place, right? There's 3 hit with Fabianski, Zuma, and Antonio. This is the thing with the City defenders as well, Jonny, right? Why is that? I mean, that's mad. It's disgraceful FPL returns, really, isn't it?
It's just because they've all had stints in and out of the team.
Yeah.
And when they have been in the team, we've conceded shit goals. And none of them have really, none of them are really particularly attacking. So, defense is shit for FPL this year.
I'm going to guess, Jonny, no West Ham in your squad at the moment?
No, not at the moment.
Any on radar?
Not really.
We're essentially buying from 4 or 5 teams at the moment, aren't we? Of which one is yours.
Yeah. I've lined up my team on FPL team for the rest of the season, and yeah, you're right. I think there's going to be a lot of the same transfers.
City, United, Brighton, Liverpool, Newcastle, and looking anywhere else on that feels quite challenging at the moment. Although Gary Mantle, our Chelsea correspondent, wanted me to let everyone know to keep hold of your Arsenal assets for another week. Chris, if you had to free hit with one West Ham player and start him, who would it be?
On the base, price-wise, I know you said Tufel, but I would probably say Paqueta because of the price.
Okay, so over Ben Rama, yeah?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, Ben Rama's very, very hit and miss. It's weird. He's been playing well, but funny enough, he wouldn't say he's at fault, but when we drew with Arsenal, he was the one. Bless him, he's trying to defend. That's the thing, but he can't defend for his life.
He'd have been better off being 20 yards up the pitch and no one took notice, but because he nearly got there, it was his fault, wasn't it?
It's almost like on Sunday, you'd say to someone, right, just go and stand on the halfway line because they're more dangerous in the box than they are being away from the box, sort of thing. But it's a bit like that. But yeah, Paqueta over Ben Rama. Ben Rama's been good going forwards, don't get me wrong, but he's a bit more inconsistent.
Where do you think you finished, Chris?
Anywhere from probably 13th down to 17th, but I think we'll probably finish about 15th, 14th, 15th. So,
Jonny, I won't ask you if you're going to finish first. How many of these trophies you winning?
Should I be bullish and just say 3?
Fuck it, mate. Good luck. Jonny, give us a correct score prediction for Fulham at the weekend, please, mate.
Fulham 3-1, annoyingly.
To City.
Yeah, because we'll concede at the end. Yeah.
Chris, Palace away?
going to go 1-0 West Ham.
Good man. Jonny, West Ham at home next week?
2-0.
Do you mean it? Really? Clean sheet? Do you mean it?
Yeah, because I can't see us going back. We only concede a shit late goal if we get to 3. I don't think we'll get to 3 against West Ham.
Yeah, I agree with that. West Ham is probably not a hide-in. Also, I think mentally as well, it's 4-day break from Arsenal to Fulham, then 3 to West Ham, 3 to Leeds, 3 to Madrid. Conserving energy could be... If the game's straightforward and 2-0 and you've still got 80% of the ball, I could see it kind of staying that way, it feels like. Chris, how many do you think you get beat by at the Etihad next Wednesday, or are you going there and causing a shock, mate?
No, we're definitely not going there and causing a shock.
Don't you dare.
We're not going to get back to Arsenal after we've worked so hard to take it away from them. I think we're going to lose 3-1. At least if we don't concede that many. I think the number of games, will be a little bit of a factor. I know it sounds daft. City are going to win it. No hesitation there. But the score-wise, I think it could be closer. But I think 3-1.
Okay, fair enough. Jonny, where can everyone follow you on the bird at, mate?
At FPL Pringle.
Good man. And yourself, Chris?
As I always forget, luckily it's on the screen. It's not. It's FPL.
It's not, mate. FPL_Sky Addict. I'll do the selling for you, mate. Brilliant. Next week's Clash of Correspondents, I think, is going to be Thursday. It's Wolves versus Aston Villa, who are absolutely flying with Bradley Parker and Lee Jackson. Before I go, Jonny, I wanted to say, mate, back in the late 90s and early noughties, I used to want Manchester United to win every week for obvious reasons, and it's the same with your lot at the moment. I know we've bantered each other because we've been a bit of a scourge in your season for many years, although you still go on and win it. But yeah, I tell you what, enough fun watching you when you're playing well and wanting you to win, mate. I can see why you enjoy it so much. Good luck.
There was a chant yesterday that was to the Arsenal fans saying, "You're just a shit Tottenham Hotspur." And I said, well, no, because Spurs would be beating us.
Hey! And on that bombshell, just leaves me to say thank you so much to Jonny and to Chris. Good luck, gents. Cue music, please, man, child.